Simon Kennedy Ellis. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. It sounded very crackly then. Were you unwrapping something?
No, that's me because I'm wired up to the phone, which is how the call is happening. I have to take the headphones out of the bottom of the phone, and so that the microphone that you're clapping into, my microphone that you're clapping into, is able to be heard. Otherwise, you would hear nothing.
Got you.
It's always nice to hear your voice. I always look forward to these conversations.
Likewise, I similarly look forward to our conversations and sometimes reflect, wouldn't it be nice for us to talk without recording it?
Yeah, it's a bit odd, isn't it?
It is. But I think, yeah, it's why I really enjoyed going away, as much as, there were stressors.
Sending me away.
Shut up! I really enjoyed going away with you. And I think I enjoyed going away with you rather than being on, I mean, I know it wasn't quite neutral ground because we were going to somewhere that I knew, but it was somewhere new for us. I quite liked it.
Yeah. No, same here. It's something. It's the way, especially when you're walking somewhere or just sitting side by side. It's the way, I think, particularly walking, the way in which conversations reveal themselves and shift. And yeah, I mean, I've read quite, it's beautiful bits of writing about that. The sense of what it is to be side by side having a conversation as opposed to facing each other.
Yeah.
But particularly if you're physically moving, that, the worst kinds of heated conversations, it's impossible for them to stay heated under those circumstances. So.
Yeah, because you're negotiating the world at the same time as you negotiate the conversation. It's how we met.
Makes silence. It's how we met.
Yeah, I mean, properly met each other, not how we...
Oh, yeah, in the
maybe
car,
it's how we came to know one another. That's probably a better way of saying it.
Yeah, we did get to know each other very well on that long drive.
Yeah. This is when I was working half the week. I was working half the week in Northampton and the other half of the week in Devon. And it was...
Which is bizarre.
It was bizarre.
And you'd bought the house in Devon, right?
Oh, I think.
And then Bob was there?
That's right. Bob had got her full-time job in Devon, and so she was here all the time. And
she was at Dartington.
She was, yeah.
At Dartington.
At Dartington, yeah. And we had a conversation after she got the job, and I said, "What are we going to do?" Because we have a house in the Midlands, and she said, "I'll just get a little room in the in Totnes, and I'll come back at the weekends." And for some reason, that felt like I was being absolutely robbed of something.
Well, also because, rent money's dead money.
Well, there's that. But I think it was also to do with the fact that why did she get to go and live in this really beautiful place? And I didn't. I just thought, hang about, I want to go and live by the seaside. I want to go and have, moors. And I think that was what drove us, because there was nothing keeping us in Northampton except our jobs, and Bob had given up that job to come to the southwest.
And you were doing these crazy. Anyway, so you went there and bought a house. Basically.
Yeah,
that's the first part of the. That's the backstory.
And you were really worried about me falling asleep and killing myself on a drive.
I mean, I spend weeks and weeks and months over whether to buy a little oven, and you just go. You tripped over and bought a house.
I mean, it's a little bit more complicated than that. But you bought an oven.
I did.
And
I did. In fact, this morning was the first time I tried to shovel in. I think it will take 8 loaves, but I just shoveled in 6 the first time, and I didn't do a great job. It's quite tricky getting so many loaves off a peel.
Oh yeah.
And a couple of them butted up against each other, and they did that thing which when like bread rolls do, yes, when they're just a little bit close to. So I thought they were probably quite nice, but they were great. And then the second set was a different kind of loaf, and it had basically exploded out of the bannetons, which is the proving baskets, in the fridge, and had pushed up. They were. The fridge there was a little bit dough everywhere, so I didn't think they were going to work, and then. I stuck them on the peel. I made the mistake of thinking I could get them all in the oven at once, and it was just a car crash trying to get them in there. And so I was reaching into this deep oven, burning my arms, trying to sort of sort of cajole them into some sort of shape, and some are butted against the back, and so but they worked, and they came out rustic. Let's just call them rustic.
Yeah, rustic is a great way for burnt in bits and in corners, and
exactly like they were done in a wood-fired oven.
Yeah,
basically.
which is people pay extra for that.
Oh yeah, and I charged them extra. For
Good. What's the
pretty
overall feeling
interesting.
of that oven? Because this is a game changer, isn't it?
Well, it's certainly stepping up the hobby.
Yeah,
and just so much. It's just easier. Okay. It's so much easier.
Okay, so
I mean, I didn't, instead of getting up at 3:30 or 4 to spend 5 hours baking 2 loaves at a time, or sort of 1.5 loaves at a time. Once I killed my oven, it took me an hour and a half tops.
Wow,
hour and a half all gone, including heating up the thing. So,
and is it like super hot? Is it very different?
Yeah, and also I can put steam into it as well.
Right.
So it's so you can, and also the best thing is actually being able to see the bread change. I've never been able to watch bread.
Oh, of course.
Bake. Yeah. That is an absolute the pleasure. I sit there on a bouncy ball just watching them.
Are you loving your life?
Well, I do wish that I'd owned a house though, so that I could not feel like I was sneaking around in the middle of the night. But no, I don't really think that. It's really enjoyable. It's really, really good fun. I was thinking, it was quite an expensive thing. But I do, what is it about it? It's just that thing where you go, this is really great. It's challenging my skills, and it's really good fun, and it's simple, and it's just making bread.
Yeah.
So I think that might be the end of the oven updates. I'm not sure there will be any more. There will be any more need for oven updates.
Never say never.
Hey, I was going to ask you something.
Go ahead.
Serious question.
Go on.
There's something about love and disappointment that is, how is it possible, or how do you go about, I know it's possible, but how do you go about acting in a loving way while expressing disappointment?
Well,
or maybe it's an easy thing, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
I think there's the how you should and how I do. Because I think how I do is not how you should.
Right.
Because I've been, over the years, I've trained myself to do several things because I don't like certain behaviours in me. We've talked about how quickly I am to anger, and I don't like that. One of the things I found myself, probably about 15 years ago, I found myself saying what a lot. What? When I couldn't hear what was being said. So it wasn't...
not as in, what are you saying?
No. But I noticed that the way I said what, not only did it feel to me to be rude, I think it was also perceived by people as being...
As a challenge.
Yes. And it immediately put people on the back foot, and made them a bit more defensive. And really it was about me being inattentive or not hearing properly. So I worked really hard, and still do this, and you might notice that I will say, I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. Or pardon. So I will try to not do a what, or what was that. I'll go, oh, sorry, pardon. So that it's more clear that I haven't heard.
And when you don't understand, because so in Portuguese, there'll be lots of times you're not understanding, and there'll be lots of times when you haven't heard. Mm-hmm. Two different things, right? Which tend to get, if you're a learner of a language, they tend to get conflated, meaning people just assume you haven't understood.
Yeah.
I imagine there's an informal way, effectively, of saying what in Portuguese.
I don't think my Portuguese is good enough to be able to give a clear response to that, because at the moment, if I haven't heard something, it's because I haven't really fully understood it. It's not.
And so you say, I don't understand.
Yeah, so I would say, com licença, não entendo. So I don't understand. Or sometimes I will ask for things to be said more slowly.
Yeah. Okay. So there's not a point where you can sort of use the Portuguese equivalent of what?
No. I'm nowhere near that with my language skills.
Right,
I'm not like you. You are a very competent Italian speaker. I am a very good tourist. I mean, I'm a bit better than a good
which is
tourist.
a great place to be, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I was in France.
I mean, ordering food is fantastic.
Yeah, but I was in France a couple of weeks ago, and I think I said...
It was probably about 6 weeks ago by the time this thing comes out.
But I think I might have said to you that sense of that French being so far away from my brain that I defaulted to Portuguese and realising just
it's so strange.
I know, but just how... And I remember you saying when we were in Portugal together, how frustrated you were that you didn't have enough language just to simply say things like, excuse me, thank you, could I have? And you were similarly like going, I know how to do this in Italian, but I don't know how to do it in Portuguese. And that sense of like, and I realised quite how extensive my Portuguese is in very transactional relationships.
Yeah, which is, that's when you're using it most often.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's getting better in terms of being able to be in, like I went to a condominium meeting and I understood maybe 60% of what we were talking about, which is pretty good going, because we weren't talking about, can I have a table, please? We were talking about what keys should we get for the door? Should we repaint the staircase? How much money is there left in the bank account? All of those sorts of real world things. And so I was pretty impressed. I couldn't really speak to them, but there were 2 English speakers in the room, and every now and then they go, "You okay? You getting this?" And I was like, "Yeah. I think we're talking about this right now. Yeah, we are. Okay, carrying on." So I wasn't slowing it down by having it all translated for me, which was great. And also Bob was with me, so we were able to tag team the bits that we didn't understand. But to go back to that sense of like what versus, I beg your pardon. It felt like that was a sea change in the way I was being in the world. And so to go back to your original question, when you are in a relationship, a loving relationship with somebody and you want to express disappointment, what you should do is talk about the action that you are disappointed in, not the person that you are disappointed in. That's what you should be doing, isn't it? You should be going, that thing you did really upset me. I was disappointed in that thing you did, not I'm disappointed in you. You have upset me. It's like, that thing you did upset me. It's kind of the opposite of what contemporary culture critiques apologies for. It's like, I'm sorry you were upset by that behaviour, as opposed to I'm sorry about what I did. It's almost like it's the opposite of that, isn't it? Because you're actually saying it's the behaviour that I'm upset with. I'm sorry about, I don't like that thing.
Yes, we've conflated. I mean, that's it's a old theme really. We've conflated the action with the person. Those things are so tightly bound now in our culture. You can't. There's kind of no let off.
No, no, absolutely. But and that's how I think you should do it. Why do you ask?
Because I think so. Something happened recently where it's a person I love dearly, and I was really struggling with wanting to express disappointment, and now I'm just thinking, because I think it was I think delicate, and I'm trying to think now, and I think I don't think I did that. I think I eventually expressed disappointment, but I don't think I was specific enough. I think I said it's just really disappointing. Which is not as precise or as, making it really clear about it being the behaviour as opposed to the person.
It's very hard, though, isn't it? Because if you are disappointed or upset, you are disappointed or upset, and those are emotional landscapes. And those emotions rock us. They don't leave us in a place where we feel rational or calm or measured. They've made us spiky or shaky or jittery,
or even just surprised.
Yeah,
like trying to go, whoa, what's going on here?
Yeah. And it's hard then to go, okay, I'll take a breath and say, that thing that just happened, that thing that you just did, or just said, or has just happened,
or just told me about, or whatever.
That's it's rocked me a bit, and I'm a bit disappointed. I'm a bit disappointed in that thing, and I don't know what to do with that, and I think it's hard for us. I think it's hard for us to have that conversation, because if somebody were to say that to you, it would be, would you be any less defensive? If somebody says, I'm disappointed in your action, then I'm disappointed in you. Do you become less defensive? I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that's sort of hitting the nail on the head for me, really, which is to say that I think I'll just say I think it's easy to conflate those two things, that even if I'm hearing someone express disappointment in something I did, I turn it into the person I am, which is a little bit about what you were talking about last week. Can't remember the kind of precise aspect of the conversation, but yeah, or sort of easily hurt or wounded. Do you remember that? Remember we were talking about that?
Yeah, I do. I think because that was part of that conversation we were having about the different versions of ourselves and
yeah, that's right.
I was talking about being able to be poked by Bob in a way that I don't think I'm able to be unsettled or upset by other people, and similarly responding in a way that is probably less generous. I think I let other people off behaviours in a way, and I absolutely know it's not just Bob. Now that I'm thinking about it, I hold my parents to a much higher standard of behaviour. It's like, how could you do that? It's like as if I've forgotten every act of kindness that they have ever done. It feels sometimes like I'm basing my entire understanding of their personality on one action. And I catch myself afterwards going, that's a stupid thing to have done.
Yeah, it's a very odd thing we're talking about, or that behaviour is, and either when you're effectively giving it or receiving it, meaning if someone says something, say they're disappointed in what you did, and then you take it to be about your personality, it's effectively the same thing in reverse, right? And I think as you were talking, it made me think that I think that if I were to express envy in one thing, it would be about those people who exist on the planet, those human beings that are on the planet who are able to not do that, who don't feel that. If someone expresses disappointment in something they did, they don't wear it as if it's somehow a blot on their entire personality. And, lots of those people exist, and they wander around the world, eyes open, etc. But yeah, there's something that I feel like, wow, what that must feel like, to have that kind of, what is it? Confidence? No, security, self-assuredness. What is it?
I don't know if it is any of those things. I don't know if it's about confidence or self-assurity. I think it might be that there are people whose emotions are just not. They don't operate at such high temperatures, that they're just able to, on some brain chemistry level, they're just able to be more measured. And I don't think it's about coldness. I don't think it's about lack of engagement. I just think it's in the same way that you used to, because I know you're not really engaging in news anymore, and therefore not engaging in sports in the same way that you used to. A little bit. Just lately, I've been just noticing myself eking back with sport, which has been very frustrating. Okay, but you used to, when you were doing it, you would feel quite passionately about the sport. Yeah. Yeah, the outcomes. Yeah, exactly. Whereas shaking while watching, absolutely, that kind of thing. Things you could never understand. Exactly. And it's not because you are flawed or I am flawed. It's that our brain just works differently. In the same way that I recently watched the musical episode of Star Trek: Brave New Worlds. Wait. Uh-huh. What? Yeah. I just want to say, what? Yeah. There's a musical
version of Star Trek
Yeah. So, okay.
on TV.
Yeah. So just to put into
Oh,
context,
you're killing me. You're killing me.
there are multiple Star Treks right now. And this one...
So with different casts.
Yes, exactly. And this one...
But they're all on the Enterprise?
No. I'm not going to try and explain the complexities of the timeline of Star Trek right now. I will just say, singing songs, watch the episode within the first maybe 50 seconds of the show. The singing has started and I am already crying.
There is no way in hell I am going to watch that.
Yes, and if you were to watch it, you would not have that effective response. You would just think it was absolutely ridiculous. Yeah?
Yeah.
So your brain is wired to feel deep, effective relationships to the competition that sports women and men are engaged in. You are deeply connected to those behaviours and those achievements in a way that I look at it and just go, oh, that seems shouty and sweaty and I'm not interested. But similarly... I watch somebody start to sing their emotions in a dramatic context, even though I fundamentally dislike the form of the musical. I'm uncomfortable with it. I know that it is twee and crass, and I do not like it, but it works on me on a humoral level, and I start to cry. And I think it's the same with people who can be measured, that their brains just don't hear criticism. When they are said something as, the thing that you did has upset me or the thing that you have done has disappointed me, they go, oh, okay, I'm really sorry about that, let's reflect. Rather than, you are calling me a bad person. I just think there are people who are wired like that.
But when you say wired, or that the chemistry, you're using language which implies that they are born like that. But that's not what you mean, right? It's just that whatever the way they've been, the things, the experiences they've had as children, and the way their parents treated them, and all the things that go into becoming
At this point,
or becoming whatever.
At this point in life, I don't know the difference between the hardware and the software in humanity.
Sure.
So I'm just
and the wetware.
Yeah. So I'm just going to say wired that way, and we can understand
as a shorthand.
Yeah, somebody might have come in and tinkered with the wiring, or it might be just how they came out of the box. I don't know which, because I'm not a brain science man.
Do you think there's in any point? There's a really beautiful book by I forget the professor's name. Her name. It's amazing. It's called 7.5 things or facts about the brain. It's as an accessible thing in terms of understanding the brain. So for example, that thing about reptilian brain, the old brain and the new brain is just a whole lot of hogwash. Like, there's just things that's just really simple and really accessible but it anyway, I guess that's an aside, my thinking as I'm listening to you is going, well, does that mean I'm in this case that there's what kinds of things can I do to attenuate that? Or I'll just ask the question more generally. What if there are kinds of behaviours that each of us, you and me, the people who are listening, that we have that we're a little bit less uncomfortable with, or less comfortable with, I should say. That what kinds of things can we do to attenuate or to shift those quite deeply baked behaviours? Because there's just a part of me which goes, I just don't want to accept that that's the way it is, or that's the way I am.
Well, I mean, remember that I said I found myself saying what and I didn't like it? I trained myself to say pardon. I beg your pardon.
And it shifted that.
It shifted the way, and I think it shifted not just the word, but also how the word was offered. What?
Yeah.
And I can see, as I say the word, and you can't see me because we're just talking on the telephone, but when I say what, my eyes crinkle up, my forehead contracts, and it looks more like sceptical and resistant. Whereas when I say, I beg your pardon, my eyebrows go up, so it's more open. So there is something that is happening to my face in the way that I say it, and I've not trained myself to make those shapes. I just think my face made that shape. And as a result of it's that shitty old Yale experiment, isn't it, of holding the pen sideways in your mouth versus long ways in your mouth. You know that silly experiment.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's that silly.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, silly as in it's simple, but it's really effective. If you don't know midlifers, what I'm talking about, there was I'm saying Yale. It could have been Harvard. It was one of the Ivy Leagues in the States. They got a group of people, let's say 10 people, 10 in one room, 10 in another. They made one half of the room hold a pencil in their mouth lengthways, so they clamped it between their teeth lengthways. And then they had so it was held like a bit in a horse's mouth, and then the other 10 people were holding it in their mouth with their lips like it was a cigarette. And then they were put into a room and watched a stand-up comedian do a set. And the people who had held the pencil sideways, lengthways, in their mouth like a bit,
laughed
laughed
surely.
more. They laughed more because their face had been effectively in the shape of a grin. Whereas those who were holding the pencil like a cigarette, their face was in the shape of a frown, and they laughed less.
Frowny, yeah.
Yeah. So there's that relationship.
Oh, it'll be in the show notes. There'll be a link in the show notes.
So I think when you ask what can you do to attenuate, it's practice, isn't it? It's catching yourself in that moment and then practicing an alternative, and eventually practice, and all is coming, as Patabi Joyce once said.
But can I just ask you one question? You know, when you're watching a TV show, it's likely that people are going to be killed in it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you assess from the very beginning who's going to make it and who isn't?
Of course.
Right. Okay. And are you pretty good at it?
Am I good at it? Yeah, I think so. I think I can usually take the inferential walk, as Umberto Eco would say, and work out who has been sort of tagged. It's like in the Poseidon Adventure, isn't it?
Oh, it's been a long time since I saw the Poseidon Adventure.
Shelley Winters is the perfect example of the person who you know is not going to make it out in the Poseidon Adventure, because she's a former swimmer, but she's old now and she's going to do something heroic, but she's not going to make it to the final reel. And true to form, she doesn't. And I think, why do you ask?
No, I was thinking about it the other day because it made me think that I have a sneaky suspicion that a TV show or a film, I'll think of them as better, or when I'm surprised by who is killed off.
Ah, yes. So like the end of series 1 of Game of Thrones.
Correct. Or the whole red was that the red? Oh, I think it was. Anyway, the whole red,
yeah.
the whole red wedding thing.
Yeah.
When they basically killed off all these characters, there's no way they were going to.
Yeah.
Even if the opening episode or the second episode of the first series, I think when they killed off, Ned Stark.
No, that's the end of the first series when Ned Stark gets killed. Spoiler alert for some.
Is it really the end of the first series?
Yeah. He gets all the way through
right,
because they get all the way down to King's Landing, and he's made the hand of the king, and then the king dies. And
anyway. Spoiler for those who haven't watched, for those 3 people in the world who haven't watched Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I always feel that when we get to 10 years beyond that being shown, we don't have to be too, because people aren't going to watch it.
No, it's true. But yeah, that does seem, maybe that discounts because it's not a great, Game of Thrones started off pretty well. Anyway, great to, very nice to talk.
Very nice to talk to you too. I look forward to our next conversation, as always.
Have a beautiful day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
I'm not hanging up on you, by the way. I was just stopping recording.
Okay, bye. Bye. Okay, bye.
Bye.